Welcome to my 3-minute intro to PvP guide for Arms Warriors in patch 10.1 of Dragonflight. Arms Warriors are known for their versatility in melee DPS, and despite some recent nerfs, they remain a formidable force, offering overwhelming damage, great defensive abilities, and a wide range of utility. So let's dive right in. First, let's talk about talents. There are dozens of ways to play Warrior, but for starters, I'll recommend the following talent tree, and I'll leave the import string in the description. As you become more familiar with the spec, experiment with different builds. This particular build works well in 2s, 3s, and solo shuffle. Now, let's discuss PvP talents. My default setup consists of Sharpened Blade, War Banner, and Warbringer. However, Arms Warriors have excellent options that can be tailored to your opponent. While Sharpened Blade is a must-have, you can swap out other talents as needed. Storm of Destruction can be great against melee cleave compositions due to the talent Unhinged. Disarm works wonders against most melee opponents, allowing you to peel and disrupt their offensive maneuvers. Personally, I like running Death Sentence against kitey classes like Warlocks, Druids, and Mistweavers. As for Rebound, it can be a useful talent against certain hard-hitting casters, such as Destruction Warlocks, although I'm not a huge fan of it due to the increased cooldown on Spell Reflect. Let's move on to stat priority. I recommend focusing on versatility followed by haste, mastery, and crit. Now let's talk about gear. I highly recommend obtaining the Infurious War Boots of Impunity, which will grant you strength anytime you successfully interrupt, and the Infurious Helm of Vengeance, which will cause enemies who damage you to take some damage as well. Both of these can be crafted in the work order system at a 450 PvP eye level, granted you have the materials. The Arms Warrior rotation is not too complex, but you'll want to align your abilities to maximize your damage output. The normal rotation follows a priority list. Use Mortal Strike on cooldown as it applies a healing debuff and deep wounds. Generate rage and buff your Mortal Strike by using Overpower. Keep Rend up on your target. With this spec, you can apply it with Thunderclap. Use Execute during sudden death procs or when the target is within the appropriate health range. Slam should only be used when you have an excess amount of rage and none of the other priority abilities are available. Now let's move on to burst damage. To initiate burst, start with Sweeping Strikes if you'll be able to cleave, followed by Warbreaker and Thunderous Roar. Activate Sharpened Blade, then use Avatar, which will cast a short Bladestorm. Finally, unleash Bladestorm and continue with your normal rotation. Next, let's talk about utility. Slowing your target is crucial for warriors, as it allows you to maintain consistent damage output. Keep Hamstring up at all times and use Piercing Howl if you're having trouble catching up to your target. Intervene is a fantastic ability that can be used both to peel off physical damage from a teammate or as a mobility tool to connect with a target. Defensive stance is great for situations when you're taking a lot of damage. Generally speaking, you want to be in battle stance when bursting or when you're not under excessive threat. Use Spell Reflect to avoid casted crowd control or to reflect significant spell casts. Reflecting a CC like Cyclone or Polymorph can be game winning. In this particular build, we're running Shockwave, which is fantastic for stunning multiple targets with its AoE effects, and Shockwave actually lasts 3 seconds in PvP. I love using it during openers to catch a whole enemy team off guard. Stormbolt is a versatile tool that can be used both on the kill target or an off target, especially when utilizing macros, which we'll discuss briefly later. Intimidating Shout has a long cooldown, but is incredibly powerful. It can be used offensively to secure a kill or defensively if the enemy team is grouped up. As an Arms Warrior, you'll have access to Heroic Leap, Intervene, and 2 charges of Charge as gap closers. It's important to use these abilities correctly to maintain good uptime on your target, but it may take some practice to get it right. Lastly, remember that both Bladestorm and Avatar are root breakers, and with the Blademaster's Torment talent, they also provide immunity to crowd control for a certain period of time. I don't want to spend a large portion of time on macros, but I do think there are several good macros to have as a warrior for Stormbolt, Intervene, and Pummel. I'll post the ones I use in the description. And that's all I've got. I hope you found this guide to be a useful starting point for your journey into Arms Warrior PvP. If you enjoyed this content and would like to see similar guides for other classes or even future updates to Arms Warriors, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. It's completely free and it greatly supports my efforts. Now get out there and dominate the arenas.